Hello and good morning to you all, and I welcome you in our today's discussion. As you can see on the screen, that today we are going to talk about the functional theories of translation, text types. Functional theories of translation text types. Uh, Even before this lecture, in one of my lectures, as far as I can remember, we also talked about text types, but it's from a different perspective. That today we are going to consider text types in a different way, and as you can see, it's completely functional and how these functional theories actually it emerged. And also there are other theories like communicative. These functional and communicative theories, both of these together contributed to the to this discussion. And also it will help us to understand the text types because it's very important to know it, because without considering the text types, or even if you as a translator, if we fail to understand the types of the text, it's truly going to uh, in one way or another way, it's going to affect our translation work substantially. So that's actually we have to consider it very carefully. So I would like to move on to the next slide, the very first slide of today's discussion, from where actually we'll try to have an idea about it. Now, as you can see, the 1970s and 1980s, it saw a move away from the static linguistic typologies of translation shifts and the emergence and flourishing of in Germany of a functionalist and communicative approach to the analysis of translation. So you see the functionalist and communicative approach. As a communicative approach, we are familiar with it. So that's actually, I'm not going to shed light on it, but functionalist, uh, maybe some of you might have some idea, but it's still, I'd like to explain it a little bit about it so that you can have some idea that what is functionalist approach to, or functionalist uh, perspective on education. Uh, I hope you can see this slide, slide 3. It's just a nota bene for you. Can you see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's great. Now, if I go through, then you can see functionalist perspective on education. So what does it mean? Here is that education is functional for society when it fulfills its manifest functions. So you can see the manifest function, that means which is very much visible. You can see it. So it's not only the latent quality, also it depends on that how an educator or how a student, he or she can function in the society. So it's a kind of, you can say, integration, and it's very much integrative, you can say, that it will integrate us, through the education process with the society so that we can cope up with the society and we can lead our life. So here you see, education is functional for society when it fulfills its manifest functions. And what are those manifest functions? First of all, that is socialization, the student role, academic subjects, and the democratic process. So they will learn about it. So socialization, and we understand what does it mean socialization, even if we don't understand it. But for a simple understanding that how actually we will play our role in the society and how can we mix with the people, how can we socialize ourselves with the people. So that is the process of socialization. And functionalist perspective on education, it helps us to understand it, and also it helps us, it guides us, it motivates us to socialize. Then transmission of culture, so that means from one culture to another culture, or you can say kind of assimilation of the pe- pupil or the students. So it helps us to understand it, that how can we assimilate ourselves, in the society. So to assimilate children to the norms and values of a culture. These days, you can see some of us actually, we go to school and also we take higher education, but even after taking all this education, getting all these certificates, still you can see we find it very difficult uh, to assimilate, in the society. We don't find our place in the society. So and sometimes we call it savoir-faire. That means how to mix in the society, how to behave in the society. So we don't know how to do it because our education doesn't teach us in that way. But the functionalist perspective, that's actually different. It will teach us how to assimilate ourselves in the society, how to know the norms and values and how to use them for our own benefit. Then social control such as encouraging respect and obedience. So This functionalist perspective, it will guide us, it will help us, or it will give the prescription that how to respect and obedience. That means how to obey, how to show respect to the rules, to the people, all these things. Then social placement, also functionalist perspective, you see, it helps us to understand it. Social placement, that where actually I will place myself, where I will identify myself in the society. So through identifying the most qualified people, so you see, identifying who are the most qualified people. So according to the quality, so we are going to judge people. We are going to place people according to their quality. So which is really interesting. And you see, it's a kind of it's a kind of establishing meritocracy. That means where actually merit will rule. The merit, the talent, that is the most important thing that we have to focus on. Okay, so in that sense, this is going to help us in this way. Now, change and innovation. So, functionalist perspective of education that also helps us to understand it, that how change actually it happens and how actually we can innovate, we can create something new. So, meeting the needs of the multicultural society. So, if it is a multicultural society, for example, maybe you're living in a place, and in your place you have people from different parts of the world. They're coming there, people from different parts of the country. They're staying or they're living there. So, in that sense, that is a multicultural society. You know, people, those who are coming from different parts of the country or different parts of the world, they're coming to that particular place with their own educational background, with their own family background, their tradition, rites, and rituals, and also their own religion. So how actually you can cope up with in that kind of society, how can you can innovate, that how you can sustain as a human being in that society. So this will help us to functional perspective on education, or functionalist perspective. Actually, it helps us to understand it. So now let me go back to the previous slide. So here, where actually we started, that flourishing in Germany of a functionalist and communicative approach to the analysis of translation. So you see, that is the thing, the functionalist and communicative approach. Now, from that perspective, how actually have got this understanding? So here we look at, as you can see, the Katharina Race's early work on text type and Marischal Honvin's integrated approach. Then Jasterholz is a very difficult name to pronounce. It's a German name, so I can't pronounce the rest of the thing, but it looks like Monterey's theory of translation action. So Jasterholz Monterey's theory of translation action. Then Hans J. Vermeer's scopus theory, which centers on the purpose of target text. We are going to learn about this scopus theory. It's very important. We have to know it. Then Christine North's more detailed text analysis model, which continued the functionalist tradition in the 1990s. So we can see it's a not I mean that much old, I mean, form of understanding translation or text. It's quite new. You can say in that sense it's quite contemporary. It's in 1990s and we're in 2020s. So in that sense, you can say it is quite relevant to our discussion. Now, this is again functionalist functionalist approach to on education. You can see social integration in the school that will teach us what social integration, socialization, social placement, social and cultural innovation. So all these things actually they will talk about. Now, have you understood so far what I've discussed?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, excuse me. So from this perspective, actually, they're going to analyze the text, and also they're going to determine the text types. Okay. Now, Katharina Reis's work in the 1970s builds on the concept of equivalence, but views the text rather than the word or sentence as the level at which communication is achieved and at which equivalence must be sought. So you see, it's not only the word, it's not only the sentence. Rather than communication is important here. What is the function of the text? How actually it is contributing, to establish a communication between the, you can see the translator and the receiver, those who are actually listening to it. Okay, now let me, okay. So as I was saying, that the communication is the most important thing here. for this functionalist or if say the communicative approach to the text, okay? Especially when we're talking about translation. Now, our functional approach aims initially at systematizing the assessment of translations. So the assessment of translations, that how the I mean, if the translation is good or bad, I mean, the quality of the translation, if you want to just understand it. So she tried to systematize that assessment, okay? And it borrows, I mean, her theory, it borrows Carl Buller's three-way categorization of the functions of language. Okay, so race links the three functions to their corresponding language dimensions and to the text types or communicative situations in which they are used. The main characteristics of each text type are summarized by race as follows. So now we are going to see that how actually race, she has categorized the text types when actually it comes to translation. Okay, so the first text type, see, plain communication of facts. So the first, that is the purpose, okay? The first thing that when actually it is a text, I mean, when it comes to translation, now she's thinking that plain communication of facts. Facts will be communicated in a very simple manner. It will be understandable. It can be comprehended very easily. So so that is information, knowledge, opinions, etc. So these are the facts. So we have to communicate information. We have to communicate knowledge. We have to communicate opinions. Okay? The language dimension used to transmit the information is logical or referential. The content or topic is the main focus of the communication, and the text type is informative. So, what is the first text type?
Informative.
Informative. And our job will be to communicate information. Okay?
Okay,
Yes,
All
sir.
right? So, you see the content or the topic, that is the main focus. Content or the topic is the main focus, not the style or the structure. Content or topic. So that is informative text. Okay. What is the next type? Now, in the next
Race.
type, the first thing is that is creative composition. So that is the purpose. That is the thing. Or you can see that's the bottom line of this kind of text. And what it will do, the author uses the aesthetic dimension of language. So the author will use the aesthetic dimension. That means the the beautification, or you can say the things that make the text beautiful. That means now some stylistic features that can be considered. So in the creative composition, we'll find it. So the author or sender is foregrounded, as well as the form of the masses and the text type is expressive. So author and or the sender actually they already know about it, and so they will have some ideas about these kind of styles of things, and as well as the form. So they will also know about the form. They will know the content and they will know the topic, and at the same time, as well as the form of the masses, that is also important there. So when actually you are concentrating on form or style, or you are trying to be creative in your composition, so then we call that kind of text as expressive. Okay, it's an interesting way of, I mean, explaining the text. So first, they are giving the explanation, then mentioning the type of the text. Usually, what we do, we mention the type, then we go for the definition. But here, first the definition and the examples, then comes the text type. Okay.
okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now the third type, inducing behavioral responses. So this kind of text, the purpose or the objective of this kind of text will be to induce behavioral responses. That means it will it will uh, it will inspire or ignite your behavior in different way, and thus actually it will bring out the responses. The aim of the appellative function is to appeal. You see, the appellative function is to appeal or persuade the reader or receiver of the text to act in a certain way. So to act in a certain way, so it will persuade you, it will appeal you to. That means I have certain kind of response, and accordingly, it will try to elicit the behavior out of me. Got it? So
Yes,
it
sir.
is related with the behavior. So it will try to bring out the behavior through the responses out of you, because you are the reader. So when you read a text, so it will bring out your behavioral responses. Okay. The form of language is dialogic. The focus is appellative, and Race called this type of text is operative because it operates you. It's actually inspires you to behave in a certain way. Understood?
Yes, sir.
The text actually, it helps or it inspires you, it motivates you, it provokes you to behave in a certain way. So it tries to elicit or bring out certain kind of responses out of you as a reader. So that's why it is called operative, because it operates some kind of task. Okay, operative. It's a kind of manipulation, you can say. So it tries to manipulate, and also it tries to bring out through that kind of manipulation some kind of behavioral responses out of the receiver, out of the reader. So that's why that this kind of text we call it operative text. And the fourth one, audiomedial. So audiomedial texts such as films and visual and spoken advertisements, which supplement the other three functions with visual images, music, etc. This is race's fourth type, which is not represented in table 5.1. So I have already uh, got the table from the book, and you know that we are following the text by Jeremy Mundy. So from that text, actually, I have taken all these things. So you can also go through the text by yourself. And also from there, I collected the table. So in that table, actually, it is not there, but we can understand it, that this audio medial text, it helps to understand the text. For example, you're reading a text, uh, and it is translated maybe in your language, and then afterwards, it has been it has been recreated as a film, or it is produced as a film. Okay, now you're watching the film, so that is also a kind of translation, right?
Right, sir.
A
Yes,
novel,
sir.
for example, from English to Bengali, and then we have the movie. So that is audiomedial text. So audiomedial text, it helps us to understand the original translation, original text. So it can be audio, visual, it can be audio text, okay, recorded, or visual images maybe. It's not just simply some images that helps us to understand it, or maybe it's a kind of music. So that also helps us to understand the text. Songs. There are some songs that are based on some kind of text, or we say inspired by that novel. It happens, there are some songs that are inspired by some poems or inspired by some novels or some kind of any kind of literary genres. So those works we call those music actually that will help us to understand the original text or the translated text. Now, example of text varieties or genres or text store that we call associated with each of the three text types are given by race. So the examples of text that we are going to see, those are given from those first. Remember these first three: informative, expressive, and operative. Audio medial, that is based on audio visual things. So that's actually it is considered separately. That is also a part of the text types. But basically, we can see that these three are the text types. Okay, informative, expressive, and operative. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So that's to say that these three types are given by race and presented visually by Chesterman. So the visual presentation, we'll get it also in the next slide. I'm going to show you the slides right now. Those figure and also the table. Following this diagram, the reference work is a text vary, which is the most fully informative text type. The poem is a highly expressive, form-focused type, and an advertisement is the clearest operative text type. So clearest operative text type. So you see, first of all, it's the variety, which is the most fully informative text type. So informative text type. The poem is a highly expressive, form-focused type, and an advertisement is a clearest operative text type. It's very interesting. If you miss it, then you'll not be able to understand the rest of the discussion. Look at this. What are the examples? The text variety, which is the most fully informative text type. So informative text type, we know that is full of opinions, facts, and figures, right? Full of information, right?
Yes, sir.
And the expressive, that expresses your, the form and functions, aesthetic beauty, or we can say the beauty of the text, or the stylistic features of the text is expressed especially in poem, right? In the poem, we have a stanzas. In the poem, we have different kinds of literary figures. Remember? Figures of speech that we can say. These are used in poem. like alliteration, connotation, image,
Hyperbole.
hyperbole, exaggeration that we call, or we can say undertone, numerous, right?
Right, sir.
Different kinds of literary figures, devices actually we can use in form, and you know it. So that is form focused, right? That is form focused, isn't it? Rhyme, rhythm, all these things are based in form, right? And different kinds of literary devices. So we're using it in poem especially.
Yes,
So
sir.
poem is a highly expressive, so that is the expressive text. So we have to remember that when you want to translate a text, and if that is a poem, then that is expressive text, we have to know it, and then accordingly we have to judge it. And an advertisement is the clearest operative text type. Advertisement. Isn't it true? Operative text, what does it do? It brings out the responses from the reader, right?
Yes, sir.
It ignites or instigates, or I shouldn't say instigates, rather I say it provokes a kind of, inspires a kind of emotion, a kind of responses in the mind of the reader. So that is advertisement. For example, when we read advertisement on newspaper, and if it is very attractive and full of different kinds of very catchy phrases or words, then you see a kind of emotion, it comes out of you. Either you feel that you have to buy one. For example, it's an advertisement of a kind of, you could say, a cell phone, and that cell phone is different in many ways. And the advertisement, it has described the phone in such a way that you feel the urge to buy it, and a kind of emotion is coming out of you, and then you're trying to collect money so that you can buy that cell phone because you're motivated after seeing that advertisement on the newspaper. So that advertisement actually, it has evoked a kind of emotion, it has evoked a kind of responses, I mean, in you. Have you got it what I've said? Do you understand me, dear students?
Yes, sir.
Excellent.
Got it, sir.
Okay, so the operative text that will operate, that will manipulate our emotion, okay? Right. Now, between these poles, that means between these poles means these three different kinds of text, that is informative, expressive, and operative, are positioned a host of hybrid of types. Thus, a biography might be somewhere between the informative and expressive types. So you see the biography. So there are a host of hybrid of types. So you see, maybe there are different kinds of text like biography. Biography is people's life written by somebody else. For example, if I get very famous one day, then maybe Fahim or Ritu or Sharmin or Sadia, whoever it is, maybe you will feel that, okay, I should write a biography of my teacher because I used to be his student. I know lots of things about him, so let me write a biography about him. I'm just giving an example, okay?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
sir.
Okay, I'm not making myself famous, so don't take it otherwise. All right. So you see, then this style is different. Biography, maybe it is full of different kinds of anecdotes, your experiences, different things or stories that happened with me, I mean, during your university life. So you can quote those things, those interesting stories, interesting events that happened with me. All right? Understood?
Yes, sir.
So when actually you mention those things like a storyline, or maybe you can write some poems, or you can quote my poems from my book, and then you put those things in the book. So you see, you have expressive text there. You have information about me, so that is informative text there. And then maybe you want to put something which will attract people's attention, and that will also evoke emotion in the readers. So that will be some kind of operative text. Because maybe as your teacher, you will try to lionize me, you'll try to magnify my contribution to the education or my contribution to the literature, whatever it is. Then you have to attract people's attention. So that will be operative text part. So in the same biography, when you write, it's a book that is biography, we can say. But in the same book, we have different kinds of texts mingled together just to serve your purpose. Understood? Hello?
Yes, sir.
So in the same text, we have all kinds of text types. So that is hybrid of types or hybrid types of text. So that's it says that besides these three poles, there are texts where actually you can find the amalgamation of all these texts together, all these types together. Okay. Because since it provides information about the subject while also partly performing the expressive function of a piece of literature. So you see, the biography actually, it will function all these things together. It will provide information, also it will express emotions, or it will say something about me, or it will you will quote something about me. So that is also it has some stylistic features are there. So in that sense, that is also performing the expressive function. So similarly, a sermon gives information, religious sermon. You understand sermon, right? What is the Bangla of sermon? The sermon given in the masjid. Boys, what does it call in Bangla?
Simon, sir.
Okay, let me give you a clue. On Friday.
Sir, khudwa.
Exactly. Sermon means religious lectures or speeches that we call, okay, sermon. So similarly, a sermon gives, and also sermon means to give advice to the people. For example, I'm giving you advice, so I'm sermonizing you, okay? So similarly, a sermon gives information. It gives information about people while fulfilling the operative function by attempting to persuade the congregation to a certain way of behaving. This is an excellent example, and you can't you can't ignore it in any way. That is, the sermon. You can see that is sermon gives us information, right? It has different quotations from the Holy Quran or different kinds of religious scriptures, right? From the Hadith or the Quran, so full of information. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So sermon is full of information. At the same time, why the imam or the religious leader? Why actually he is giving all this information? So that I function in the society in a certain way. I behave in a certain way. So that is operative, right? So by giving me those advice or information, providing me with those information, the religious leaders or the leader, he himself, he wants us to function in the society in a certain way, to behave in a certain way, according to the religious prescription. Got it?
Yes, sir.
So he's trying to manipulate our behavior, right? Right?
Right.
Right, sir.
So that is operative function because it has some operation. It operates some kind of function that I will behave in the society in a certain way. So that is the sermon. So the sermon is a text that combines both information, that informative and operative at the same time. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Sir.
But at the same time, I can tell you that in the sermon, you can find all the three text types: the informative, expressive, and the operative. Why I'm telling you that expressive or the stylistic feature or all these things are found in the sermon? If you just go through the last sermon that is given by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, on his last Hajj, the last sermon that he gave on the Hajj, in that pilgrimage, you remember that that is very, it has some style, it has some literary value. So if you judge it, so you'll find that the sermon, and also in the masajid, you will find that the religious leaders, the sermon, sometimes some of the sermons, they're very beautiful. They're, you can say, I mean, beautified in a different way, very literary. It has some literary value because they're very well structured, right? And it sounds like a literary piece. So you'll find that the sermon, it might be the combination of three different types of text together. Got it? What I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Got it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, here are the text types. I told you that here actually we're not going to have the last one. Okay? Audio Mario. We'll have informative, expressive, and operative. The text types, language function. Informative, it provides information representing objects and facts, and expressive, expressing sender's attitude, aesthetic sense, you can say. Operative, appellative, making an appeal to text receiver, that means to the readers. What is the language dimension? In the language dimension, informative is very logical, expressive, it's very static, and operative, very dialogic. Okay. And text focus. What is the text focus in the informative text? In the informative text, the text focus is content focus. Based on content, content is important, information is important. In the expressive form or style, that is very important. In the operative, the appellative focused. You see, the appeal, what kind of appeal or what kind of emotion it actually it is evoking, that is very important. Okay, that is the text focus. And the target text should, the target text, that means the translated text. The target text should be transmit referential content. That means it will give the reference of the main text and also and a reference to the main text and also the reference to the, language, both the languages, the source language, SL, and the target language, the TL, and transmit aesthetic form. So the target text, what it'll do, it will transmit aesthetic form. That means aesthetic form that is available in the source text, that is, it also will try to transmit that in the target text. The literary features. Okay. And the target text should elicit desired response. So desired response means, for example, as a speaker, or for example, I'm giving a sermon. I'm in the masajid, so I'm a religious leader. So I will try to elicit certain kind of emotion out of you through my speech. And then I will convince you, and then I will make you to abide by those religious rules. And when you go out of the masajid, you will try to remember those things and you'll try to apply those information that I've already provided. So you'll try to apply those information in your personal life. Okay. So elicit desired response. So I will make you emotional. I will make you very, what should I say? I will make you submissive. It depends on different kinds of sermons. So sermon to sermon, it will differ. Okay. Now, translation method. What will be the translation method when actually you are translating informative text or when you are actually translating expressive or operative text? So translation method will be plain prose, explicitation as required. That means there will be explanation. There will be citation from the main text. There will be explanation. Okay, and it's very simple prose. In the expressive text, identifying method, adopt perspective of source text author. You see, this is very important. So text to text, it will vary. It's very important to remember this. So when it's expressive text, then you have to identify method. You have to identify what kind of method actually you have to going to follow. Because in the source text, what the author actually, he tried to convey some kind of messages through the literary style. So try to stick to that style and try to identify that method and try to adopt it and also put it in the source text. So source text, in the target text, sorry, in the source text author, his intention is very important, and the style he followed in the source text, that is also very important. So you have to try to imitate that thing. Then operative, that is adaptive equivalent effect. In the operative text that is adaptive means you have to adopt the text type or the text quality. It's based on your society, the culture. That means the target readers. So if I translate a text for my readers, that means the Bengali speakers, then I have to think about them, and accordingly, actually, I have to decide on the style, the form, content, information. So I will put it in such a way so that people will get information out of it, and they will get emotional, or they will respond in a certain way that I want to. Okay, so adaptive and equivalent effect should be there. That means the equivalence effect, remember that. That means you have to make it equivalent to the source text, the source culture, and also the target culture. So you have to make some balance between these two. Now here is the text type, as you can see, that is informative. And on the other end, this is a pyramid. So you can say this in this triangle. So at the top, we have informative, and then on the left angle, we have expressive, and the right angle, we have the operative. And in between, we can see in the informative, we have referential, report, lecture, operative instructions, tourist brochure, because this provides us with information. And on the expressive, we have biography, we have play, we have poem. And on the operative section, we have sermon, we have electoral speech, advertisement. These are the operative text. Do you get it, dear students?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Clear, sir.
Excellent. Okay. Especially, you see the electoral speech, that means during the election. When, I mean, it comes to election, you see the election campaigners, and especially the leaders, all the people who are the candidates, you see, they actually deliver speeches. And these are full of different kinds of promises and optimism, right?
Right, sir.
And they try to motivate people to vote for him or her. So that is
Yes.
operative. That means you will manipulate people's emotion, they will be convinced, and then they will vote for you, right? So
Right, sir.
those kind
Right.
of speeches are operative and manipulative text. Okay, all right. We have very few minutes, so let me finish it quickly. So despite the existence of such hybrid types, Reyes states that the transmission of the predominant function of the source text is the determining factor by which the target text is judged. So you see that the transmission of the predominant function of the source text. So what is the function of the source text? You have to determine it. Either it is informative, expressive, either it is operative. So you have to determine the function. So accordingly, the target text will be judged. She suggests specific translation methods according to text type. So according to text type, we have to follow the specific translation methods. These methods occupy the last two rows of table 5.1 that I've already showed you and can be described as follows. So what are those two methods that we can follow? Just a second. Okay, and those two methods, first of all, you can see the informative text, and the second one is expressive text. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so these are the two different kinds of text types. So the target text of an informative text should transmit the full referential or conceptual content of the source text. So the reference or the concept or idea, opinions, whatever actually, I mean, are available. These things are available in the source text. So we have to transmit it to the target text. So that is the informative text. The translation should be in plain prose. We have already mentioned it there, without redundancy and with the use of explicitation when required. So you see, we need to give explanations, we have to cite different things, and we have to explain it. I mean, if I want to put it in a simple language, and also without redundancy. That means you cannot repeat the same thing again and again, or you cannot talk about the same thing time and again. So you cannot repeat those things. So that is called redundancy. So we cannot make the idea or the concept or the reference redundant. Okay. So that is informative text. And the expressive text, the text of an expressive text should transmit the aesthetic and artistic form of the source text. The translation should use the identifying method with the translator adopting the standpoint of the source text author. So you see, the source text author is his standpoint, actually you have to consider it. And also the aesthetic and artistic form of the source text, that also you have to transmit it. Maybe it's not possible to transmit all of it because English and Bangla or French and Bangla or German and Bangla, actually we have different kinds of syntactic structure, and semantically sometimes they're also different. And vocabulary obviously different. So because of all these differences, okay, these linguistic differences, maybe it's not possible to transmit all the aesthetic or artistic form of the source text into the target text, but still you have to try it because it's suggestive. Here, actually, you can see it there. The translation should use the identifying method with the translator adopting the standpoint of the source text author. So what the source text author actually he tried to transmit, he tried to say, or what was his intention. That means regarding this aesthetic and artistic form. So you have to identify your method, and then you have to transmit those things from the source text into the target text. That means the satire, the irony, the pun, the alliteration, or the consonants, assonance, or different other kinds of literary devices that are found in the source text, you have to try to transmit those things also in the target text. Understood? Is that clear?
Yes,
Yes,
clear,
sir.
sir.
Okay, fantastic. Now, the fourth one, the target text of an operative text should produce the desired response in the target text receiver. So desired response. Actually, this is the explanation of that table that I have already shown it to you. The translation should employ the adaptive method, creating an equivalent effect among target test readers. That means the emotion or yes, the emotion that is evoked, or the, you can say, when you read the source text, the emotion that actually it will evoke, when you read the target text, also it should be this in the same fashion, in the same manner, it must be there. So you have to adapt that method in such a way that you say that adaptive method. So you have to adopt and adapt in such a way that when a person reads the original text, the source text, the emotion that will come out of his mind, the same emotion that will be evoked by the target text. Okay? So you have to have some balance in between these two. For example, when I read the original text in English, I become very emotional because of reading that text. I have to have the same kind of emotion when I read the translation. So you have to transmit the emotion in the same manner. So that is the idea here in the operative text. Now, audio medial texts require what Race calls the supplementary method, supplementing written words with visual images and music. So supplementary method, in that sense, that means it will help the operative text, the informative text, and also the expressive text. So it is a supplement that will help to understand those texts in the form of films, in the form of music, in this way. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Now, this is the last part of our today's discussion. You see, the race also lists a series of interlinguistic and extralinguistic instruction criteria by which the adequacy of a target text may be assessed. The adequacy, that means the things that we have in the target text, you can assess it. You can evaluate that thing, and then also you can transmit it in the target text. So the adequacy of the target text can be assessed if you try to follow this. The intralinguistic criteria. Intralinguistic criteria is semantic, lexical, grammatical, and stylistic features. So you have to give attention to these things. So you see, a target text means, for example, Bangla. So I'm translating from English to Bangla. So my language is Bangla. So I have to notice all these things, the semantics features of Bangla, the lexical features of Bangla, the grammatical and stylistic features of Bangla. So I have to, notice all these things, okay? And then the extralinguistic criteria, that is situation, subject field, time, place, receiver, sender, and affective implications. That means humor, irony, emotion, all these things. So these are extralinguistics. Linguistic means which are within the language. Semantic, lexical, grammatical, stylistic functions are within the language. Extralinguistics, because of this interlinguistic features, actually, some kind of extralinguistic features, actually, it will come out of it. For example, because of the use of word, because of the use of different kinds of grammatical structures, some kind of emotions will come out of us, right? And therefore, we'll get this extralinguistic criteria, like humor, irony, and emotion, basically. So the time, the place, the receiver, who is the reader, who is the sender, and also the affective implications, that means the emotional implications, how actually it's going to affect you. So all these things we have to consider. So if you consider these things from of the target text, then you can feel the adequacy, that whether your language actually it will be effective in transmitting all those things, the stylistics, the emotional stuff, all these stuffs from the source text to the target text. Then you will be able to assess it. So you need to focus these interlinguistic criteria and extralinguistic criteria of the target text. That means in our case, Bangla, we have to consider it. Then we'll be able to understand that whether my Bangla will be able to translate that English text from English to Bangla. I can feel or I can assess the adequacy of the target text. Adequacy of the target text, or we can see the here adequacy means the in that sense you can say the competence or its efficiency as of the target text, that whether actually it is efficient enough, my language, or whether my language it has these adequate kind of features of the source text so that it can be transmitted, all those emotions, all those concept, ideas, reference from the source text to the target text, and then I will understand it. So interlinguistic criteria, extralinguistic criteria, you have to keep it in mind. Both the languages, not only the target text, or not only the target language, TL, also the SL, you have to consider all these things. Then you can establish the right kind of equivalence you see here, if you just take a look at this slide 13, number 2, identifying method. So it will help you to identify the method, which method actually you're going to follow to translate the text. Understood? Is that clear?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. Last slide. Although interrelated, the importance of these criteria varies according to text type. So you see the criteria, intralinguistic feature and extralinguistic feature, that will vary on the basis of the text type. If the text type is expressive, then you have to treat it in a different way. If the text is informative, you have to treat it in a different way. If it is, what is the other one? Expressive, informative, and the operative text. Okay, so according to the text, you have to decide on these interlinguistic and extralinguistic criteria. Okay, so text type is very important here. For example, the translation of any content-focused text should first aim at preserving semantic equivalence. You see, if the text is content-based, the information is important here. Then you have to think about the semantic equivalence. You see, this is very important for your understanding as a translator. Semantic, you remember that semantic? That's a meaning. You have to focus on the meaning. If it is a content-focused text, that means if it is informative text, you have to focus on the meaning. That means you have to transmit the meaning of the source text in the target text. In the same fashion. And for a target text that is a news item, the second place might probably be occupied by grammatical criteria. So if it is a news item, that means from English to Bangla, if I try to translate the English newspaper, a news item from an English newspaper into Bangla, for a Bangla newspaper, then you have to think about the grammatical criteria, because here grammar is very important. Whereas a popular science book might pay more attention to the individual style of source text. So it is the individual style you can follow for the science book. Okay. Similarly, Race feels that it is more important for a metaphor to be retained in the translation of an expressive text than in an informative text, informative target text, where translation of its semantic value alone will be sufficient. No, it's very interesting. So you can get an idea that what kind of method actually you have to follow as a translator. It says that it is more important for a metaphor to be retained in the translation of an expressive text. You know, expressive text there actually, it deals with the literary features, items, literary devices, stylistic features, right? So certainly if there is a metaphor or simile in the source text, we'll also try to transmit that simile or metaphor in the target text. So expressive text, your treatment will be different. You have to follow a different method. In the informative text, actually, where information or content is important, their metaphor or simile, you can ignore them. If you want, you can avoid the metaphor or the simile to keep it simple so that people will be able to understand the information. Understood?
Yes, sir.
For example, if you try to put metaphor and simile, in an instruction, for example, for coronavirus, okay, COVID-19, okay, how to keep yourself, how to maintain the hygiene, how to sanitize yourself. Now, if you use simile and metaphor, do you really think that people living in the village, they will be able to understand that, even if it is written in Bangla? Will all of them will understand that simile, metaphor, or that kind of tricky language that you have used in the instruction? Will they be, all of them, will they be able to understand it?
No, sir.
So since it is an instruction, you have to keep it simple. Do this, do that, do this, after this, next, this, then afterwards, finally. So these are the instruction. So metaphor and simile, you can avoid it. So for expressive text, that is important. You have to do it because it's more focusing on the style. So you have to maintain, or you have to preserve that metaphor and simile even in the target text. But if it is informative text, you can avoid it, you can ignore it. So that is the idea. All right, so do you have any question? Now I'd like to take questions from you. Any question from today's discussion? Was it very difficult to understand, dear students?
No, sir. Not that much difficult.
Okay, excellent, excellent. That means you have understood. So if you have an opinion, so you can leave it now. You can leave your comment.
Sir, tomorrow we have an exam on this course. So if you
Right, so do you have any more questions about today's discussion?
No, sir.
Okay, if you don't have, then we can call it a day. And thank you very much for your participation. And we'll talk about more about text types and different other things, especially the functional approach or communicative approach to these translations in our coming lectures. Okay.
Okay, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. Take care
Thank
of
you, sir.
yourself and have a good day.